I sat in the doctor's waiting room, the sterile white walls doing nothing to ease the tension in my chest. My fingers fidgeted with the sleeve of my coat, the fabric worn from years of use. The hum of fluorescent lights was drowned out by my racing thoughts. I should have been preparing myself for the routine checkup. But the call I had just received from my daughter, Lily, still echoed in my mind. "Lily?" I asked, my voice a bit shaky. "What's going on?" Her tone was detached, almost clinical. "Mom, we're leaving for Europe tomorrow. I already sold your house by the beach, and the car. It was a quick sale. We needed the money for our trip. Bye." The call ended abruptly, and for a long moment the phone felt heavy in my hand. It was as if I had been slapped awake from a dream I thought had lasted 45 years. Raising her, sacrificing for her, and this was the result? My only daughter, a woman who had once been the light of my life, now cast me aside without a second thought. I wanted to scream, to call her back and demand an explanation, but I didn't. Instead, I took a deep breath. I smiled, a soft, almost sad smile. Lily didn't know the whole story. She thought she had left me with nothing. But there was something she didn't understand. There was more to this than she realized. My name is Grace Miller, and I'm 72 years old. I became a widow 6 months ago when Robert, my husband of 43 years, passed away suddenly. He was the love of my life. We had breakfast every morning together, a quiet routine that had always felt safe. On the day he died, he handed me my cup of tea, kissed me on the forehead, and said, "I love you, Grace." He never got to say anything else. Since his passing, Lily had been more present in my life. She came to visit more often, offered to take me to the grocery store, and even suggested I see a doctor for a general checkup. "You need to take better care of yourself, Mom," she'd say, offering a smile that I thought was born from genuine concern. But now I saw it for what it really was: convenience. She saw me as an obstacle to be removed, just another thing to deal with. The beach house, our sanctuary, was sold without my knowledge, and the car, that old blue sedan that Robert had cherished for so many years, maintained with such care, was gone. That car held his scent. It was the last part of him that remained, and Lily had taken that from me too. My heart broke as I sat there, motionless. It felt as if the foundation of everything I had built my life around had crumbled in an instant. I didn't cry. I hadn't cried in months, but for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the overwhelming sadness that I had grown accustomed to. Something in me had shifted. The loss was still there, yes, but something else had risen in its place. A quiet resolve, a strange calm. I was about to go into the doctor's office when I remembered. 3 days before Robert died, he had handed me a manila envelope. "Grace," he had said, "put this in the drawer of your dresser. If something happens to me, open it when you're ready." At the time, I didn't think much of it. I tucked it away, forgotten amidst the grief of losing Robert, but now it felt like a sign, something I needed to revisit. I couldn't ignore it any longer. The nurse called me into the office, and I went in, my thoughts swirling around the mysterious envelope. The doctor checked my vitals, gave me a clean bill of health, and advised me to rest more. But my mind was elsewhere, already planning what I needed to do. I smiled politely, nodded in agreement, and left the office. Walking to the bus stop, I couldn't help but feel that there was more at play here. Lily thought she had left me with nothing, but she didn't know what I had. She didn't know what Robert had hidden from her. What she had done, in her haste and selfishness, had just set the stage for the next chapter of my life. I wasn't the helpless widow she thought I was. I arrived home and went straight to my room. The dresser drawer where I had stored the envelope was waiting, just as I had left it. I opened it carefully, feeling the weight of its contents. There were several documents inside, a stack of them, neatly organized. On the top was a letter in Robert's handwriting. His familiar neat script made my heart ache. "Grace, if you're reading this, then I'm no longer here. Forgive me for not telling you everything. I didn't want you to worry. Over the years, I've invested in properties, stocks, and businesses. You're not just the owner of the beach house. We have 6 other properties, including the apartment building where Lily and her husband live. We also have shares in 3 companies. You've always been wealthy, Grace, but now you will see it for yourself. I wanted to protect you from the worry, but now you need to know the truth." I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I flipped through the documents. Robert had kept everything a secret, all of it in the name of a company I had never heard of. But now, the company, the properties, the investments, everything was mine. I was richer than I had ever known. There were deeds to houses in upscale neighborhoods, a condo downtown, and a small motel by the coast. But most startling of all, there was the apartment building where Lily and her husband lived. Robert had been its silent owner for years, and now it was all in my name. I could feel a shift in the air, the weight of power settling over me. Lily had no idea what she had just set into motion. As I sat there, the weight of it all sinking in, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of betrayal. All those years, Robert had been quietly building an empire for us, but he had kept it hidden. Not because he didn't trust me, but because he wanted me to focus on our life together, not on money. I respected that decision, but now I saw how it had played into Lily's hands. I had been so caught up in my grief over Robert's passing, so consumed by the shock of losing him, that I hadn't seen what had been right in front of me. Lily thought she could take everything from me, but she had no idea what I had just inherited. I sat in the stillness of the room for what felt like hours. The power that had been transferred to me was not just financial. It was the power to reshape my life, to reclaim my dignity, and to teach Lily a lesson she would never forget. She thought she had stripped me of everything. But what she didn't know was that I had always been wealthy, not just in money, but in the strength I had inherited from Robert's quiet love and wisdom. I wasn't going to let her win. Not like this. That evening, I sat in the kitchen, a cup of tea in hand, the documents spread out before me. Robert had always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. He had built this for us, and now it was time for me to use it. I wasn't going to confront Lily right away. No, I needed time to figure out the best way to handle this. She needed to learn something about respect, about what happens when you take someone for granted. The plan was already forming in my mind, and the calm I felt wasn't just from the tea in my hand. It was something else, something stronger. I had learned to be patient. I had learned to fight for what was mine when I needed to. I wasn't going to let Lily destroy everything Robert had worked for, not if I could help it. The next morning, I woke with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months. It wasn't just the inheritance or the properties, it was something deeper. A quiet strength had taken root in me, a reminder of who I was before everything started falling apart. I wasn't just Grace Miller, the widow. I was someone with the power to change the course of my life, and my daughter's, if I chose to. Lily had no idea what was coming, and that, in itself, gave me the advantage. I spent the morning reviewing the documents Robert had left me. The deeds to the properties were clear, and the company in his name had been established with a level of precision that only someone like Robert could have achieved. He had made sure I would be the sole beneficiary, but he had also made sure no one would know about it until the time was right. Robert had always been a man of careful planning. Even in death, he was still looking out for me. I didn't tell Lily about the discoveries I had made the night before. I couldn't afford to let her know how much I had, not yet. Not until the plan was set into motion. She had treated me like an obstacle to be removed, and I wasn't about to let her think she could get away with that so easily. No, it was time for a lesson. The phone rang just before lunch. It was Lily again. "Mom, I hope you're okay." Her voice was tentative, almost like she was testing the waters. I just wanted to check in. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or to feel pity. After everything, after she had sold my house and the car, she had the nerve to call me like everything was normal. "I'm fine, Lily," I replied, keeping my voice calm. "How's Europe?" There was a pause on the other end of the line, and then she spoke again, her tone a little more cautious. "It's going well. Edward and I are looking into a business opportunity. Things are moving faster than we expected." I could hear the excitement in her voice, the same excitement that had driven her to abandon me. I couldn't let that go unnoticed. "I'm glad to hear it, but, Lily..." "Yes, Mom?" "I've been thinking a lot about everything. I said, my voice soft but firm. About the house and the car, about what you've done. I don't know why you think it's okay to make decisions for me without asking. Lily was silent for a long moment, and I could practically hear the gears turning in her head. I didn't think it was necessary. I thought it would be easier this way. We needed the money for our trip. Lily, I cut in, you think this is just about money, but it's not. It's about respect, and you've stripped me of that. She let out a frustrated sigh. I'm sorry, okay? I'll make it right. I'll figure out a way to get your things back. I wanted to laugh at how quickly she thought things could be fixed, but I didn't. Instead, I said, I don't need you to fix anything, Lily. What I need is for you to understand the consequences of your actions. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone, and then she spoke, almost pleading. Please, Mom. I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing. I just want us to be okay. I felt a pang of something that resembled regret, but it didn't last long. I wasn't about to let her off the hook that easily. We'll see, Lily. We'll see if you can make things right. But understand this. You've made some mistakes, and I won't let you walk away from them without learning something first. I understand, she said softly. I'll come back soon, okay? We'll talk more then. I hung up the phone with a strange sense of finality. This was only the beginning. For the next few days, I kept a low profile. I didn't speak to Lily again. Instead, I focused on preparing for what was coming. I met with the lawyer who had handled Robert's affairs, Mr. Peterson, to discuss how to regain control over the apartment building where Lily and her husband lived. I had already begun the process of reversing the fraudulent sale of my beach house. The lawyer assured me everything was moving in the right direction. You're the rightful owner of everything, Grace, Mr. Peterson had said during our meeting. Legally, Lily has no claim to these properties, and I can help you recover them. It'll take some time, but it's possible. I don't want to rush things, I replied. I want to do this carefully, and I want to make sure Lily doesn't suspect anything. I understand, he said. But just so you know, everything is in order. She may have thought she could take control, but it's not going to last. I left the office with a sense of purpose. Every move I made from this point on would be calculated. There was no more room for mistakes. Lily had pushed me to the edge, and now I was taking control of my own destiny. The next day, Lily called again, her voice sounding more desperate than before. Mom, I need your help. Edward's gone. He's left me in Europe with nothing. I don't know what to do. The money's almost gone, and the banks are starting to ask questions. Can I come home? I didn't hesitate. Of course, Lily. You can always come home. But I wasn't the same woman who had once waited at the door, ready to forgive her at the drop of a hat. I had a plan now, and it didn't involve rescuing her from her own choices. It involved showing her that life doesn't always work out the way you expect it to, and sometimes you have to work for what you want. When Lily arrived back home, she looked smaller, more fragile than I had ever seen her. Her once confident demeanor had been replaced by a weary vulnerability. She wasn't the woman who had left, full of ambition and self-assuredness. She was a woman who had hit rock bottom, and now she was asking me to pick up the pieces. I didn't say anything as she walked through the door, suitcase in hand. I didn't need to. She had already done enough talking. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know things would turn out like this, she said, her voice cracking. I thought I was making the right decisions. I thought I was doing what was best for us. I watched her, her eyes searching mine for some kind of reassurance, but I didn't give it to her. Not yet. You made some choices, Lily, I said, my voice steady, and now you have to live with them. She stood there looking at me, waiting for me to say something more, to make it better. But I didn't. The only thing I could offer her now was the lesson she needed to learn, the one she would have to figure out on her own. Do you want some tea? I asked, breaking the silence. It wasn't much, but it was the only thing I could offer. I wasn't about to hand her the world on a silver platter just because she was back. She nodded, too exhausted to argue. I poured the tea slowly, taking my time. This moment wasn't about rushing to solve her problems. It was about giving her the space to come to terms with her mistakes. As I handed her the cup, I watched her take a sip, her hands trembling slightly. There was no going back now. I had made my decision, and soon she would learn the consequences of abandoning me. But for now, I let her sit in the quiet of the room, the weight of the past few weeks settling between us. She hadn't yet realized what was about to happen, but she would. Soon enough. The following weeks passed in a haze of calculated silence. Lily had settled back into the house, but the dynamic between us had changed. She was no longer the confident woman who thought she could control everything. Instead, she seemed lost, vulnerable, unsure of what her next step should be. It was almost as if she had stripped away her own identity, only to find herself standing in the ruins of her choices. The first few days after her return, she clung to me, desperate for reassurance, for some sign that everything would be okay. But I didn't give it to her. Not yet. I wasn't the same woman who had once put her needs above my own. I had learned to protect myself, to be strong. I had learned that sometimes love meant teaching the hard lessons. "Mom, I need to find a job. I'm going to start looking tomorrow," she said one morning, her voice tentative. I nodded, not giving her the comfort she wanted. "Good. You'll need something to keep you busy. It's time to start paying your own way." She looked at me, surprised by the lack of sympathy in my response. "What do you mean? You know things aren't easy right now. I don't even know where to begin." I set down the cup of tea I had been holding and looked at her, my gaze steady. "That's exactly the point, Lily. You've spent your whole life depending on others. Now it's time to learn what it means to stand on your own 2 feet. I'm not going to save you this time." Her expression faltered, but she didn't argue. I could see her trying to process what I was saying, but I wasn't sure if she fully understood. She had always been able to rely on me, and that had created an unhealthy dependency. It was time for her to grow up. The first week, Lily spent hours online, filling out applications for jobs she wasn't qualified for, sending resumes to places she had no real interest in. It was the usual cycle of hope and disappointment, but it wasn't about whether she got the job or not. It was about teaching her perseverance. It was about making her face the discomfort of not having things handed to her. I watched as she grew frustrated, but I didn't step in. I didn't offer her advice unless she asked. I simply let her navigate the maze of rejections, the sting of unanswered emails. I could see her beginning to change. Slowly, the arrogance she once carried had faded. In its place, there was a quiet humility. One evening, after a long day of job hunting, Lily sat across from me at the kitchen table, her face drawn with exhaustion. "I can't find anything, Mom," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've tried everywhere. It's like no one wants to hire me." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I just looked at her, waiting for her to say more. She was expecting me to comfort her, to tell her it would all be okay, but that wasn't what she needed. "I've been thinking," she continued, "maybe I should go back to school. Get some kind of degree. It feels like everything I've done so far has been pointless. Maybe that's the answer." I didn't respond immediately. The idea of her going back to school was a good one, but it wasn't going to solve the real issue. The real issue was that she hadn't learned the value of hard work yet. She was still looking for a way out, a shortcut. "You're right," I said finally. "School could be a good option, but think about it, Lily. It's not just about the degree. It's about what you do with it. You need to learn how to fight for what you want, to put in the effort it takes to build a life. No one's going to hand you anything. Not anymore." Her eyes met mine, and for the first time in weeks, I saw a flicker of something resembling understanding. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Days turned into weeks, and Lily continued her search for work, more determined now than before. I didn't interfere, but I watched her, quietly proud of the way she was pushing through. I saw the toll it took on her. The late nights, the constant anxiety over money, the fear of not knowing what came next. But she was learning, slowly, and that was what mattered. One afternoon, as I was sitting in the living room reading a book, Lily came in, holding a small envelope. Her hand shook slightly as she handed it to me. "It's from the bank," she said, her voice strained. They're asking for payment on the loan I took out with Edward's name. I opened the envelope, scanning the letter quickly. It was exactly what I had expected. Lily had been left with a mountain of debt. The money from the beach house sale hadn't lasted as long as she thought, and now the banks were demanding repayment. It was a hard truth, but it wasn't one I was going to fix for her. I don't know what to do, Mom, she said, her voice cracking. I thought I could handle it, but I can't. The pressure is too much. I set the letter down and looked at her. Really looked at her. You're going to handle it, Lily. You have no choice now. You've put yourself in this position, and now you have to figure out how to get out. I'm not going to bail you out. Not this time. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes, but she didn't cry. I could see the struggle within her, the anger, the fear, the desperation, but more than that, I saw a hint of something else, resilience. It was buried deep, but it was there. I don't want to be like this anymore, Mom, she whispered. I don't want to rely on people. I don't want to be this person who just takes. That was the moment I had been waiting for. She was finally starting to understand. She was finally starting to realize that real strength didn't come from what others gave you, but from what you built for yourself. It wasn't just about the money or the house or the cars. It was about the dignity of knowing you had earned your place. You're going to be just fine, Lily, I said, my voice calm and steady. But you have to do the work. You have to face the consequences of your actions and learn from them. That's the only way you'll ever move forward. A week later, Lily came to me with a decision. She had found a job, a cleaning position at a local office building. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and it was the first step she had taken on her own, without looking for shortcuts or handouts. I'm going to keep this job for a while, she told me, her voice quieter than usual. I don't want to be one of those people who expects everything to be handed to them. I've learned that much. I couldn't help but smile. It wasn't much, but it was everything. This was the moment I had hoped for. The moment Lily took responsibility, not just for her actions, but for her future. Over the next few weeks, things slowly began to settle. Lily continued working, and she started paying off her debts, piece by piece. She had changed. There was no denying it. But the real transformation wasn't just in her actions. It was in her heart. She had finally come to understand that life wasn't about money or status. It was about integrity, hard work, and the people who truly loved you. And that was when I decided it was time to reveal everything to her. One evening, I sat her down at the kitchen table, the documents from Robert's estate laid out before us. Lily, I began, my voice steady, there's something you need to know. She looked at me, confusion in her eyes. What is it, Mom? I've never told you this, I continued, but Robert left us more than you realized, more than either of us knew at the time. All of it, everything we have, was built with hard work, sacrifice, and love. It's yours. It's always been yours, and now it's time you understood why. Her eyes widened as she took in the information, but I didn't let her speak. You've been given a second chance, Lily. You've learned the lesson that too many people never do. But it wasn't the money or the inheritance that taught you. It was the hard work, the pain, the struggle to stand back up after falling. That's what will keep you going. Tears welled up in her eyes as she finally understood what I had been trying to teach her all along. And this time, when she hugged me, it wasn't out of desperation. It was out of respect, a respect that had been earned.